foundation.org for other folks who were interested in watching, but maybe they could not make it. Before we begin, we actually want to introduce you to our accessibility team and to our Spanish interpreter. If you are interested in closed captioning, please click the live transcript button or the closed captioning button at the bottom of the toolbar. And if you want to change the settings, you can actually go into your settings and change the font size. If you're interested in Spanish interpretation, you will see a button on the bottom of your toolbar that says interpretation. You should click that and decide if you want to listen to our presentation in Spanish or in English. So I'm going to give you a second to do it now and introduce you to Claudia.
Buenos días a todos. Yo voy a ser su intérprete de español esta mañana. Si están interesados en recibir la interpretación en español, por favor presionen el icono de interpretación en la parte inferior de su pantalla. Una vez abierto, encontrarán la opción de inglés o español. Por favor, presionen español y podrán escuchar la interpretación. Gracias.
Thank you, Claudia. And I'm sure you all could observe that Jenny is, she is spotlighted to your screen. She is going to be our American Sign Language interpreter. And so if you are having any trouble with toggling to Spanish or English, your closed captioning or sign language, please feel free to direct message Kayla Davis and she can assist you. Our PowerPoint will be offered in Spanish once this is posted online. And I just want to give you all 2 additional tech tips. I know you've been on Zoom all year. You're probably Zoom experts. But one thing is, if you don't want to see non-video participants, you can hover your mouse over anybody's picture, including mine, and click to hide self view, or you can also hide non-video participants. And if you want to look at me bigger, or you want to look at the PowerPoint bigger, there's actually a little bar between the picture that allows for you to make either our face or the PowerPoint bigger or smaller. And at the top of the screen, it says view. You can change the view to standard, side-by-side speaker, gallery, or full screen. So now that you are experts at being on Zoom, let's go to the next slide. I would love to begin this session by grounding us and acknowledging the traditional territory we are on, including the Duwamish, the Coast Salish, and the Stillaguamish lands. Those are the ones that I'm currently on. Please feel free to drop the traditional territory that you are on. And if you do not know, you can actually go to native-land.ca, and we would love it if you could actually drop into the chat the land that you are currently on. You know, our grants team is made up of 9 incredible program officers, associates, 2 vice presidents. I'm one of them. And so today you are going to be hearing from one part of our community learning grant team. You're going to be hearing from my partner in progress, Stephen Cole Schwartz, vice president of programs, Jay Thomas is a program officer in Tacoma. We've got Quinn McNichol, our grant manager. And on tech right now, we have Fatima and Kayla, who are able to help with chat questions and able to help with tech questions. And I cannot forget Lily Liu, who is another brain as a part of our community learning grant program. And she is going to be starring in our next presentation on the 28th, if you want to see this again. So we wanted to introduce you all to our team. Let's go to the next slide. So just to give you a brief overview of what we're going to do today, we're going to talk a little bit about Group Health Foundation. We're going to talk to you about what is a community learning grant, how to apply, give you all some clarifying questions around the application, and then we'll do a little bit of Q&A at the end. Our commitment to you is that you all can ask us any question you want. Fatima is on deck, and so is our colleague Lily, to help answer any questions. So as you all write those questions into the chat, Fatima is going to be giving it to us on the back end, and we will make sure we either chat you back the answer, or we'll answer all of the questions at the end. And if we can't answer one of your questions, we promise we'll email you and we will answer your questions. All right, folks, I am so excited to introduce our first speaker. This is my partner in progress, longtime advocate and grant maker, and he makes a mean roasted chicken. Please welcome our Vice President of Programs, Stephen Cole Schwartz.
Hey, Carmen, good morning. Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me today. I've been asked to talk a little bit about Group Health Foundation and have the honor of introducing our work to some folks for the very first time. And when I get ready to talk about our work in a setting like this, I often start by thinking about how I want people to feel at the end of our time together. Yes, there is definitely information that I hope that we all get clear about today. For example, what to expect if you apply for a grant, or our unapologetic commitment to making grants to those organizations who are founded, led, and governed by people of color, by queer and transgender folks, by immigrants and refugees, by people with disabilities, and more. And I hope that we're clear about our belief that health equity is a generational journey that demands political transformation, advocacy, and organizing, among other things. But when I think about the way I hope we all feel today, here's my wish: that we come away more connected. My wish is that you feel welcomed to share with us your ideas, your aspirations, and your questions. And I hope that our whole team here at Group Health is more in tune with the organizations who we hope will submit funding applications during this open call for proposals. So to encourage that, I'll share a little bit more about us. Group Health Foundation is a 501c4 organization that makes grants to support nonprofit organizations throughout Washington state. We are working to advance community aspirations for a more equitable and healthy future. We have the word health in our name, and that deserves a little explanation. For us, we apply a broad and inclusive definition of health that communities all throughout our state have shaped as we have spent time with them these last 2 years. We fund organizations leading a wide range of work, including cultural reclamation, anti-racism, policy advocacy, narrative change, and the work to build political power with and among people who have been forced to carry the greatest health burdens in our state. While medicine, research, clinical care, and individual behavior are part of health, they're only a sliver of it. And they're not the heart of where we focus our grant making. Since we started our grant program about 18 months ago, more than 80% of our grants have gone to people of color led and culturally specific organizations. And almost all of our grants are made with minimal or no restrictions to invite communities to fight for and experience the freedom that we believe all people should have. We take our work as a statewide organization very seriously. We emphasize funding for places that donors and funders in the Puget Sound have often chosen to underfund. We continue to hire staff from all across our state to bring their expertise to our work. And we have made grants to organizations in each of Washington's 39 counties, all of which we have visited at least once to begin building relationships with local leaders. We will always consider ourselves a learning organization first. And this is especially true in this moment as we meet organizations through our grant making and through our community engagement work. The purpose of our community learning grants is to fund and learn from organizations who best understand what equity means for their communities. And we have two major reasons for making our 2021 community learning grants through an open call for applications. The first of those reasons is that lots of organizations applied for grants from Group Health Foundation back in 2019. New applications from organizations who fit our published grant making criteria are welcome again. We know dozens of organizations that have changed, that have grown, and who have been forced to adjust after a year of this pandemic, after the attempts to steal the 2020 elections, and amidst the overdue reckonings with white supremacist violence, systems, and the police state. The second reason is that there are hundreds more leaders and organizations throughout Washington who we haven't met yet and whose work intersects with our commitments to funding racial equity, geographic equity, systems change, and reflective leadership. Our foundation is new. We're just getting started. As I turn it back to Carmen in a moment, let me say one tough thing. For every community learning grant that we are honored and able to make this year, we are likely going to have to say no thank you to 10 other applicants. That means a lot of people are going to invest time and energy into applications that we are not able to fund at this time. And unfortunately, that is the bad news. But here is the good news about our process. As we continue to learn more about who we are as an organization and who we are becoming over time, every application for funding that we receive informs all of our future grant making in our many different areas of work. This is one slice of the grant making that our foundation does overall, and we take all proposals we receive seriously and read them thoroughly. We hope to grow alongside you, and we thank you for investing your trust, your time, and your energy with us if you choose to submit an application for funding. Carmen, thanks so much for having me on to talk a little bit about this process today and a little bit about who we are.
Thank you, partner. So folks, that is our incredible VP, Stephen. He will be back in a moment, but I do want to encourage folks, if you have questions, to please drop them into the chat. You can look up our colleague Fatima, and she will certainly add those questions to our list of questions to answer, and we will do our best to answer them today. Okay, folks, so next up, we have our incredible leader, Jay Thomas, who is hailing all the way from Tacoma, Washington, to talk to you all a little bit more about the community learning grants.
Thank you, Carmen. I appreciate you. Good to see everyone this morning. We appreciate you all being with us. So next up, we're going to walk through grant making goals for Group Health Foundation and the funding criteria that we'll use to award our community learning grants. Next slide. So we'll start with connection, and then we're going to go counterclockwise on this to start things out. So in conversations that we've had with many of our grant recipients, we've learned that communities know what they need. They have the knowledge, experience, and solutions to pursue health equity as they define it. So we want to help the organizations we fund to center their work and community priorities in the experiences of the families and the communities that you serve. While collaborations and partnerships are certainly not a requirement for receiving funding from us, we do want to support organizations seeking to partner with other agencies and leaders to foster community well-being. Next, resources. So in addition to connection, we want organizations to have greater access to flexible funding to pursue strategic goals and objectives, which leads to increased autonomy, freedom, and the ability to sustain change. So through our community learning grants, we will commit $15 million in the form of 3-year grants to between 70 and 80 organizations or fiscally sponsored projects working in Washington and along its borders to advance health equity. Capacity. So another goal of grant making at GHF is capacity building. So multi-year commitments, as we've learned, allow organizations working in communities that are facing inequities and historic systemic oppressions to focus on restoration and healing over time. Our hope is that general operating support will enable grant recipients to effectively balance meeting immediate needs while maintaining an imperative focus on future growth and development, including things like investing in infrastructure, in skills and technology. So now we'll move over to wisdom, and then we're going to go clockwise to close the loop on this. So our grants provide us, as well as our grant recipients, an incredible opportunity to better understand the needs of organizations, their leaders, and communities. And by working alongside you, listening to experiences, and gathering stories of impact, we hope to learn more about the critical needs identified by those most impacted by health inequities. We hope to learn more about the efforts that communities view as necessary to achieve health equity, and to learn how organizations are progressing in their work to become advocates of systems change. Influence. Another goal of ours is to build power and influence. We know that that is what it takes in many cases to do the work. And so our hope is that organizations we support will grow and establish themselves over time by increasing access to decision makers, becoming stronger voices and forces for the advancement of health equity in your communities, and building power for long-term ambitions around public policy and systems change. Last is trust, certainly not least. We hope the organizations we support will build trust with one another, with the Group Health Foundation, and with the people in the communities that you serve. We hope to see agencies build powerful relationships by taking risks together and gaining knowledge through action. So these are some pretty big goals, and they're not easy to achieve. So please understand that we're not sharing these goals with you to ask you to do additional work or expend extra effort to reach these goals. We know that you all are already working hard in your communities to change systems and to change lives. We wanted to share these goals with you because they are about Group Health Foundation supporting and working alongside you, your organizations, and the communities you serve in your pursuit of health equity. Next slide. So we're going to switch gears here, and we want to review the funding criteria for our community learning grants. So in this particular round of grant making, Group Health Foundation will prioritize support for organizations and fiscally sponsored projects that have been overlooked by or have had limited access to philanthropy and institutional funders. So in this, we're looking for, we're interested in work that has not yet been supported, perhaps by multi-year and flexible funding. Look, newer or smaller organizations are certainly encouraged to apply, as well as those communities that have been systemically underfunded by private philanthropy. We will prioritize organizations that are founded, led, and governed by people who reflect their communities. So we specifically assess if and how a group's board, chief executive, and staff leadership or volunteer leadership for organizations that do not have staff, how they reflect the organizations that they serve, the people that the organization serves, excuse me. Third, organizations that represent a place and or an identity-based community who are most adversely impacted by health inequities. So we seek to fund work by and for Black, Indigenous, and other communities of color, queer, transgender, and gender non-conforming people, people with disabilities, immigrants and refugees, people living with low incomes, and especially people who hold several of those identities. Places that we look to fund may include tribal lands, smaller or medium-sized cities, unincorporated areas, and communities in rural settings. We will also prioritize organizations and projects that are pursuing community-powered work. And as long as it is toward a vision of health equity, the work could be organizing mutual aid, conducting community organizing and leadership development, reclaiming cultural practices and connection, leading anti-racism and anti-colonialism work, engaging people in political education and policy advocacy, and the many other ways communities build and express power. Finally, organizations that are determined to change current structures that uphold the status quo of who has access to social, political, and economic power. We're interested in how organizations are working to challenge white supremacy and systems that have excluded or oppressed their communities. So these are the criteria we will use to evaluate community learning grant applications. And this information is also available on the website, and we'll discuss a little bit more as well. And so now, to review with us how to apply for one of these fabulous grants, I'll place you back into the hands of Quinn.
Hi, everyone. My name is Quinn, and I'm the grants manager here at Group Health Foundation. And I'm here today to talk a little bit about the logistics of actually submitting your application. And we work really hard at Group Health Foundation to make sure that our processes are accessible and welcoming and as easy as possible for grantees. So we've made some changes from how we've accepted applications in the past that I hope will serve you all well. And I'm going to just walk through the options we have for applying. The most direct way to apply submit your application is through our web form online, and I believe my colleagues will be dropping the link to that in the chat. It's also available on our website on the Community Learning Grants page. The web form does not require you to log in or create a password that you have to remember to submit your application, and it collects all of the information we need over 5 pages. My colleagues are going to walk through some more details about what the questions are a little bit later. So I'm going to skip that for now, but you will have to complete all of the questions on each page before you move to the next page. If you want to see a list of all the questions ahead of time, the full application is available as a Word document and a PDF on our website, so you can get a preview of what's coming. And if I could have the next slide, please. One of the great features of the form tool we're using, which is called JotForm, is that it lets you save your work without creating an account. You'll see at the bottom of most pages, there's a button labeled Save. And that will let you save your work and return to it later. It works a little bit differently than other save features you may have encountered in grant applications. How it works is it actually sends you an email with a link back to your submission. So you can click that link later and come back and continue your work. And if I could have the next slide, please. When you click that save button, you're going to get a pop-up that looks like this. You're welcome to use your Google account to save the application or create an account with JotForm, but you can also do it without creating an account by clicking the skip account creation button, which is at the very bottom of the page in tiny text. And I put a little purple arrow here in the PowerPoint to highlight it. But if you click that button, another pop-up will appear that just asks you to enter your email address. It's really important when you do that you enter your email address correctly, because if it sends the link to the wrong email address, it's gone and we don't have a way to recover that. So be careful when you type it in, but that save feature will hopefully help organizations, particularly those who are collaborating between multiple people, keep track of your work. And if I could have the next slide. At the very last page of the form, when you're all done, you'll see a green submit button. please don't click that button until you're really ready to submit your application. We can't unsubmit it once it has been submitted. So please make sure that that's really your final draft. When you press that submit button, you will be directed to a success screen that lets you know we've received your application and gives you the option to download a PDF copy of it. We'll also send an automatic email to the email address of the primary contact that will include that PDF attached. So you'll have a copy of the application for your records. I now want to just talk about some of the other options we have for applying. If this web form doesn't work for you for any reason, we have some other ways to apply. Our application is available as a Word document on our website, which you are welcome to download, fill out, and email back to us at grants@grouphealthfoundation.org. That document is available in English as well as Spanish and large print in English right now. And we are happy to translate that into other languages or create it in other formats as necessary. Please just reach out to us and we can make that happen pretty quickly. If filling out a Word document and emailing it back to us doesn't work for you for whatever reason, please reach out to us at grants@grouphealthfoundation.org and we'll be in touch and work with you to find a different way to collect your application information. We are very willing to be flexible with folks who need to apply some other way for whatever reason. And just be sure, I think the final reminder is that be sure to go ahead and submit your application by the deadline, which is Thursday, May 6th. And I'm going to hand it back to Carmen.
Thank you, Quinn. Thank you so much. So listen, y'all, I am looking at these questions in the chat. They are particularly good. I do want to tell you all something. We are not like every other foundation. I hope you could tell that by just even our presentations to you all. There might have been things you've heard about us. There might be some rumors out there, but I want to encourage you all to apply. Whether you think your organization's budget's too big, too small, you don't have all of the information, it is okay. As Jay said, we are also trying to build a long-term relationship with organizations in the state. And even if for some reason you're not able to get access to this community learning grant, there are many other opportunities for us to continue building a relationship together. But we are capturing all of your questions and we're going to continue answering them in our direct messages, and we will make sure that we answer as many of them as possible around 11:50. I also want to give a shout out to some of the other Group Health Foundation team members who are here. I see some of our other grants colleagues, Jorge and Tony and Ruben. I see Kiana and Barbara from our community learning department, and also Corey, our executive vice president. I'm sure more folks are on here. I just couldn't see them, but if you see them, drop them a hello. They'd be talking to you if we were actually in person. So what we want to do is actually clarify a couple of questions about the application, and then we'll double back and answer all of your questions. So I'm going to call Stephen and Jay back to the stage to answer some of your questions.
Yes, ma'am. Here we are. All right. All right. We are going to walk through a couple of the, we're going to walk through the questions that you'll find in the application. If we get the next slide here. The first thing that you're going to notice is we ask for some real basic information. The tax status of your organization. Our grants in this round of community learning grants fund 501c3, 501c4 organizations. We are able to fund tribally organized nonprofits and tribal governments and fiscally sponsored projects of C3 and C4 nonprofits. If you have questions about those things, we can absolutely help clarify any distinctions that are helpful. Of course, we'll ask the name of your organization, and if you are a fiscally sponsored project, ask you to clarify that relationship and provide us contact information so we know how to get in touch with follow-up questions, or in the event of a grant, so we know who to send an agreement to at the end of the process. Next slide.
All right. So those of you that have been doing any significant amount of grant writing, you know that sometimes you have to get warmed up. And so you'll notice that we're starting with some relatively simple questions. And then we're going to move into some get to know you questions. So we want a short description, 2 or 3 sentence descriptions of your organization, including who you serve and where you work. Then we'll move into mission and vision, really wanting to understand the why, the purpose of your organization. So what is the mission and what are the long-term goals of your organization or fiscally sponsored project? And then the geography of your work. So we want you to briefly define the area that you serve and the places that your work impacts. And then last of the get to know you questions, communities served. Who are the people, the communities, or the constituents, that your organization is accountable to? And what are the community's hopes, aspirations, and needs? Next slide.
Following up on the questions you'll recognize from other places, we'll ask you to describe the work of your organization. This is a pretty common narrative question, but in addition to it, you'll also see in the application that we're just asking a pretty straightforward check-in question. We just want to know how you're doing, and check in on like you and your people as you are applying for this grant. We know that this has been a hell of a couple of years, and we really just want to know how you're doing. In addition to that, we also ask as part of our narrative questions about your thoughts and approach to any systems change work that you do. I know we have lots of different language and lots of different approaches to systems change all across Washington. We believe that every community and every organization has access to different kinds of advocacy and systems change work. We are still establishing some of our own definitions and some of our own approaches, and we're hoping to learn about how this work exists for you, if that's work in which you're engaged. And finally, the last of the narrative questions in this section is just are wondering if you would tell us how you expect that funding from Group Health Foundation would help you build your organization and advance towards your goals. That's the funding request piece of it. Next slide.
All right, so then we have a few optional questions. And as Stephen mentioned earlier, Group Health Foundation is a learning organization. That's one of the things that's very unique about us. So we've included a few optional questions to help us learn even more about your organizations. The first is around partners. So this question is really getting at, do you have any especially close or deep partnerships that are critical to your organization's work and or success? If so, who are those partnerships with and what efforts do you all share? Stories, wanting to know, what do you wish more people knew about the communities that you serve? Is there a story or a set of experiences you feel are important to share? Okay, so that's what we're looking for under that. And then beyond the funding request, thinking about what other types of support beyond funding might help you and your organization to build toward your long-term goals and why. Next slide.
No surprise, we ask a couple of financial questions. In our experience, funders and foundations often ask financial questions that are overly complicated. We prefer the simple, straightforward information that's just, what do you think your income is going to be this year? What do you think your expenses will be? What do you think you'll have in the bank at the end of the year? We then also ask a couple of narrative questions that invite you to tell us more about what you think your projections are for your revenues and expenses in the year ahead. Again, in our experience, this is much more helpful information than the budgets that funders sometimes ask for and demand that you complete in particular ways. Our hope is that we can get to know you through the very straightforward, very practical application of information that you already have on hand about your organization and about your fiscally sponsored project. Let's go to that next slide, please. We also ask for some standard attachments. We're looking for your most recent tax filing for nonprofit organizations. This will be your most recent 990 forms. They provide really helpful information for us to be able to understand a picture of where your organization's been so we can better understand where you're going. And finally, if you are a fiscally sponsored project, we're looking for an attachment of your agreement with your fiscal sponsor. This essentially is just confirming that everybody understands the relationship and that the fiscally sponsored project is invited to use the tax status of their fiscal sponsor organization in a way that we all are clear about.
All right, and finally, we're asking a series of questions about your organizational and leadership identities. They include questions about where you work and who you serve, staff and leadership demographics, lived experiences and identities, and also how your organization describes itself. So you'll be provided with some definitions of terms to assist you in completing this portion of the application as well. Carmen, back to you. Or no, Stephen, apologies.
That's okay. We can tag team it. Steven, do you want to hit them with the dates?
Let's do it. All right, y'all. Important dates to understand. We are already crossed the first threshold, so congratulations, here we are. We opened the open call for proposals last Thursday on the 8th of April. We are at our first information session. We're going to do one more of these where we could continue to collect and respond to other questions that have come up for folks during the process. And that'll be 20 days from now on Wednesday, the 28th. The open call for applications concludes after 4 weeks. So it will end on Thursday, May 6th. That is the application deadline. And that is a hard deadline. So we advise anyone who is concerned that maybe your workflow gets busy in that early week of May, get your application in early. That is a hard deadline. And unfortunately, the last time that we did this process, we did receive late applications that we weren't able to accept. We will not be able to accept late applications this time either. And we will be reviewing all proposals multiple times in our organization. We've got this small team. We're mighty, we're growing, but we're still pretty small. And so it's going to take us a little while to get through what we think is going to be pretty significant volume of applications. We'll be working through those and hope to make funding decisions in late June and be able to announce them in early to mid-July.
Thank you, Stephen. Okay, y'all. We are about to answer some clarifying questions. You all have some amazing questions. Actually, can we take down the PowerPoint? I would love to be able to see more folks. First, I want to, for those of you who did not come in the beginning, we had a pretty amazing playlist that I just dropped into the chat that has nothing to do with this grant application. Myself, Jay, Stephen, Quinn, we're going to be answering some of your questions. So I think the first question that we want to answer, I'm going to hand it to Stephen. Stephen, what are we not looking for, or what might disqualify somebody from trying to apply?
That is a very good question. Thanks for giving me the hard one right up front, Carmen. So we all recognize that there is incredible and extraordinary work happening all throughout Washington State. We can't fund all of it, unfortunately. So here's what we're not likely to fund. We're very unlikely to fund medicine and medical intervention. We're very unlikely to fund research projects and research institutions. Schools and school-related clubs are not a good fit for community learning grants, nor are athletic teams. The other thing that I really want to make sure that folks hear loud and clear is that we are not able to fund organizations whose approach is to do to communities and to do for communities. We are interested in organizations who are founded by, led by, governed by the people that your mission is organized around, and the people that you exist to serve. And it's really important to us that this reflective leadership comes through in the application. Organizations who find themselves being less reflective of the communities they serve are going to have a tough time in this round of community learning grants.
Thanks, Stephen. Okay, this might be for Jay and Stephen, I'm not sure who. There were a lot of questions about the size. So can you all talk about, like, when we are reviewing applications, is there like a too big budget or like a too small organization, a just right? How would you answer that if somebody thinks they might be too big or too small?
Yes, I'll take a crack at that. So, you know, earlier we went through a list of communities that have tended to have been underfunded or underrepresented in philanthropy. BIPOC communities, LGBTQIA+, those with disabilities, immigrants and refugees. So those are communities that we have found have traditionally been underfunded and traditionally have been, unfortunately, sort of kept small by philanthropy. So that's one way to look at it. Another is typically, you know, not a hard number, but 500,000 seems to be the threshold that we have tended to look at. So organizations with budgets that are under that, we tend to view in a smaller category. And then also those organizations certainly that are volunteer-led, volunteer-ran, and with maybe one or two or maybe no staff.
Thank you, Jay. And again, I want to reiterate, we want to get to know you all. The reason why we did not put a whole lot of hard, you know, not deadlines, I'm sorry, a lot of hard criteria around this is we really want to encourage people to engage in this process. So outside of some of the things that Stephen said, if you might think your org is too big or you might think your org is too small, feel free to shoot us an email at our grants email. Kayla and Fatima can put that into the chat. And we're happy to answer any of those questions. Thank you for putting those in the chat, Kayla. Okay, Stephen and Jay, folks want to know, how much money are you giving out? When does the grant cycle start and stop? And then I'm going to stack. If an organization is already receiving funds from us, so let's just say they're in their second year, should they reapply?
You want to take it, Jay, or do you want? Yeah, go for it.
I can start with the amounts. So we mentioned earlier that we're going to be awarding a total of 15 million to somewhere between 70 and 80 organizations. So the annual amounts are going to be $75,000, and of course over 3 years that equates to $225,000.
Great. Organizations who are in their first or second year of an existing community learning grant, no need to reapply at this time. You are not eligible for another community learning grant while you still got one going on. We will be in touch with you. Your program officer will talk to you about renewals and eligibility over the course of the coming 1 to 2 years. So no stress on that. Applying for a community learning grant does not disqualify you, when receiving a community learning grant, does not disqualify anyone from other parts of funding at Group Health Foundation, including our event sponsorships funding or any other of our portfolios. And on that last piece, as Jay said, the community learning grants is a $15 million set of commitments. During the course of 2021, we expect to continue increasing our grant making. As I said, we're a fairly young and new organization. We'll be granting or making grant commitments of a little over $60 million this year. And one important thing that I hope you all hear as I say that is community learning grants help to inform, or community learning grant applications help to inform all of the rest of the grant making that we do this year, that we do in future years. And so even if you apply and you are not awarded a grant this year, please know that whatever you share with us, we will both keep confidential and also we will use to further inform our other grant making work this year.
Awesome. So I just want to reiterate, because I see some combos in the chat. 500,000, that's like the mean, right? That's like okay, you are an organization of size. Something underneath that, we might consider that to be a smaller organization. Something over that, we might consider to be, all right, you're becoming a bigger organization. I know that I used to run an organization, and when we got to over $500,000, I was doing jumping jacks. So that, kind of, hopefully that answers that number. But again, feel free, if you're feeling apprehensive, to give us a call at the 800 number, shoot us an email. Do not allow the size of your budget to prohibit you from applying for one of the grants. And then another thing that I just wanted to reiterate is that, as Jay and Stephen said, we're not going to sit and pick and try to determine if we're going to give one group 25,000 and another group 75,000. The grant is for $75,000 per year for 3 years. Okay, so one question, Jay and Stephen, is around the terminology that we used around cross-racial organizations and multiracial organizations. I believe we made a distinction. So I know you all said this a couple of times, but do you mind putting a finer point on what do we mean when we say organizations that are led by or serving multiracial and cross races?
Go for it, Jay. I saw you come off mute.
No, go ahead. I was going to tell you that.
Look at all of us being so polite and sharing today. So we believe that these are similar but different definitions across racial and multicultural. We believe that multicultural organizations are organizations in which leadership and staff represent multiple different racial identities and cultural identities. We would consider Group Health Foundation, or I would consider Group Health Foundation anyway, a multiracial or a multicultural organization in our makeup. We believe that cross-racial, however, is more of a political identity, insofar as cross-racial organizations bring together individuals and communities of different races to advance a racial justice or other broadly stated political, social, a political or social agenda. And so I think that organizations who are cross-racial will often be involved in more of a often in more of a political project.
Thank you, Stephen. So is there a question about partnerships you wanted to answer, Stephen?
Well, I did see one thing come up through the chat a little earlier, asking whether organizations should throw down together and apply as part of a partnership or a collaboration. If that feels like the truth for you and the way to go, you are welcome to do so. But I would say this: we are very interested, and in fact, primarily interested in funding organizations to be independently strong and independently autonomous. Our theory of collaboration that comes from the work that folks like Jay and I and Carmen and others have led before we came to Group Health Foundation believes that the best collaborations are those that exist when all of the partners can come to it of their own independent will and free choice. We want you strong so that you can participate in a collaboration out of your own free will and walk away when you need to or want to. So with that in mind, a collaboration or a partnership can apply, but please don't let that get in the way of any individual organization applying.
Thank you. Okay, we've got a number of questions about geography. So could you all say a little bit more around what allows an organization to be eligible in terms of geographic areas? And are there certain like cities or counties that we are particularly looking to fund?
That's a great question. So we are basically looking for organizations that work in parts of the state that have been traditionally underfunded or overlooked. And even as we've had this discussion internally, we have been identified certain tribal lands and places, parts of the state in counties that are outside of King County. Certainly looking, so I'm in Tacoma, so certainly looking Tacoma and south. Cowlitz County towards the Vancouver area, Clark County. Going east, Kititat, also in the Tri-Cities. And so there are a number of places in the state, I would say, that we're looking for organizations that are doing great work. We want to meet them. And so we've cast the net wide with help from our communications team to make sure that we're getting the word out to those organizations so we can hear from them.
And I'm representing King County right now, so I do not want to discourage folks from King County to apply. We just want you to know that if you are somewhere else, we also want you to apply. Okay, so Stephen, I have a question for you. One person asked if their communications campaign was eligible, but I think I heard you all say that we're looking to do general and core support. Can you put a finer point on that?
I think so. I did not see that one come through, so I will do my very best with this one to say that a communications campaign in and of itself as a program of a larger institution or organization does not fit the bill. We are looking for fiscally sponsored projects that are they're a named entity with its own community advisory board, potentially with its own staff, its own budget, as one place where we can offer core support grant funding. We could also offer general support to whole organizations, but dividing out individual programs that are parts of larger institutions that are sort of like not distinguishable from them, and individual campaigns that are not distinguishable from the larger organization. Those are not eligible for a community learning grant. Did that answer that question for you, Carmen? Can I do sharper, or is that good?
No, that's great. And I believe that you all said that our priority in funding is for general operating support. So when we give you all these dollars, we are trusting that you all are going to appropriate it to whichever part of the budget does the right thing. But Stephen, you are absolutely right. We're looking for the broad and not necessarily the specific campaigns. Okay, we've got a couple other questions. I promise if we don't get to your question on the back end, we'll make sure that we email to everybody and we answer them. So one thing Jay and Stephen, someone asked is like, they might not collect all of the demographics for a board or all of the demographics for a staff. Does that mean they shouldn't apply?
Yeah, right. Definitely not. No, please do. You know, this is part of a conversation. It's part of a narrative that we're trying to build. And we know that this information it's part of the story, and it certainly helps us as grant makers. The more we know and understand about who you're serving and who's on your board and who's on your staff and your leadership team, the more we know about that, the better that we're able to operate. And also, I have found that it helps organizations to have that conversation with themselves, with their boards, with your staff team. How are we reflective of the communities that we're serving? So even if you don't have the data right there ready to plug in, it's a great prompt to start having that conversation and share what it is that you do know.
Okay, y'all. So there were a number of other questions. I think we do want to wrap up, but one thing I do want to say out loud, someone asked about like a C6, a 501c6. We are a 501c3, and that puts us in a position, I'm sorry, a 501c4. And so that puts us in a position to be able to fund multiple types of entities, which is pretty cool. But Stephen, are we allowed to fund 501c6s?
We can make grants to 501c6s under certain circumstances, but it is rare for us and unlikely to be a good fit for a community learning grant, because in order to make that type of grant, we need to apply restrictions to the grant itself. We can follow up with an individual with a 501c6 and answer a question more explicitly than that. But we are getting into territory that is probably not super applicable to everybody widely. So we can do an individual follow-up on that.
Thanks, Stephen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and the last question is, somebody asked if I could be cloned, and if I can go to their community meeting. I'm just kidding. Okay, so that's it for the questions. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Quinn. Thank you, Fatima and Kayla and Lily. And thank you to all of you who stayed on for this entire time. We really appreciate it. Let's throw up the last slide. We want to encourage folks. Right now, you can apply, you can shoot us emails, or you can give us a call. Application deadline is on May the 6th. We will be making announcements in July. Let's go to the next slide. And we want to say thank you to everyone. Please feel free to shoot us an email at grants@grouphealthfoundation.org or give us a call at 866-389-5532. On behalf of Group Health Foundation, thank you all so much for spending the morning with us, and we'll talk to you soon. And don't forget, this will be on our website in a couple of days.